Good morning. Today we're going to talk about that I can't see you, principal investigator in the clinical trial. So we know that the principal investigator signs that 1572, which is their commitment to the FDA that they are going to be responsible for the conduction of that clinical trial at their site. But sometimes you get a principal investigator that has a long list of sub-Is, and when you're looking at their participants, their signature is nowhere to be found. So you got to ask yourself, is this good principal investigator oversight or PI oversight? Yes, they got delegates. Yes, they have people who are working within the scope of their practice and per the delegation law. But is it a good look to the PIs never available during monitoring visits? Their signature is nowhere on the inclusion criteria for any of their participants that has been randomized. They're not assisting labs. Um, they are just maintaining their training, signing protocol amendment, protocol signature pages, investigator acceptance page, acknowledgement pages, and that's pretty much it. If you see this, you need to try to have a discussion with the principal investigator, because usually your CRA monitoring plan indicates that they want you to speak to the PI at some point during your visits. That could be every visit, every other visit, once a month, during site management calls, whatever is outlined in your monitoring plan, you want to be able to adhere to that. But if your principal investigator is never available, that means you have to keep writing issues in your monitoring report, and they'll never get the opportunity to be closed unless you follow up with the phone call. So if you notice this, you need to have a conversation with the person over you, which is typically their title is a clinical operations leader or a clinical trial manager. They need to be aware that your principal investigator is not really involved in the study. And basically, with that person signing that 1572, that's not a real good look. And they can bring that to the sponsor's attention, and ultimately it's up to the sponsor whether they want to use that principal investigator again or not. So you've did your part. You noticed a deficit and oversight. You've made your comments to the person, you escalated it to the person above you, and they escalated to the sponsor. Now, with that being said, again, if they're sub-Is or medically trained, they are trained on a protocol, they're working within the scope of practice, they only completing the test in which they are delegated, they are not doing anything inappropriately. And really not the PI either, to a certain degree. But again, you don't want them to be enrolling participants in a clinical trial other than in their name, and they have no involvement in the study at all. They have no interaction with the participants at all. That's not real a good look for clinical research, because if the person signs that informed consent, it has the investigator's name on it. And if they've never met that investigator the whole time that they were in the clinical trial, it's not really fair to them. They are putting their life and their health potentially on the line for science, and not to ever have met the principal investigator is not really a good look. So as the investigator, at minimum, meet your patient during the screening or randomization process. Even if the protocol is designed that a physical exam is not required, so maybe the midpoint or the end of the study, try to pop in on some of your visits. Let your participants know that you appreciate their time, you appreciate their willingness to participate in the clinical trial, and you are dedicated to their safety, because ultimately you are responsible for that individual's safety while they are participating in a clinical trial at your site. So PI oversight is very important, and as a CRA, we need to make sure that we are paying close attention to the level of involvement that the principal investigator has, especially when it comes to the inclusion criteria before that patient has been randomized into the study. I hope this video helps any CRA or study coordinator or even a principal investigator to see a different perspective. And if you want to have any comments, please place them in the chat below.